Has anyone ever told you have the face of a Botticelli and the body of a Degas? This is the pickup line Robert Downey Jr.'s character crafted in the 1987 classic, no, 1987 movie that was made, The Pickup Artist. But what is the face of a Botticelli? We're about to dive in, and you'll confidently and knowledgeably be able to point out the face of a Botticelli and add it to your repertoire. Hey y'all, it's your good buddy Justin at Leopardstripe here. Idealized beauty is something we're told we've been indoctrinated into. And the root of that supposed indoctrination is the early Italian Renaissance painter Alessandro de Mariano di Vanni Felipe. Let's just call this Sandro Botticelli. Right off the gate, I'm totally okay with idealized beauty and standards. We need to strive towards something. I was at the store last week and I went over to get some underwear. One package had a guy wearing the underwear, six-pack abs, wore the underwear very nicely. There was another package, I think it was the exact same product. Picture of a guy out of shape, overweight, underwear was sagging down his flat ass. Which one do you think I bought? I can't even believe this kind of thing gets signed off on. As an out of shape, I don't want the one that looks like me. I want one that looks like what I am striving to look like. By mid-June, I'll get there. I digress. Botticelli was born in 1445 Florence and would become a part of the early Italian Renaissance. After Donatello, before Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael, he was renowned and successful in its time, with a major patron being the wealthy Vespucci family, namely Simonetta Cattaneo, married to Marco Vespucci, a distant cousin of the eventual explorer Amerigo Vespucci, for who America is named after. That's a fun side note, but back to Simonetta. When you flip through Botticelli's catalog of work, you'll start to notice the women, these beautiful women. Many of them look quite similar. Same wavy to long and straight red blonde hairstyles, same fair complexion, smooth skin, soft feminine facial structure and posture, pouting lips, confident yet submissive, relaxed expressions. Similar nose type. It's not generic, not too straight. It looks like it's carefully structured after a particular real nose. There's a commonality in the way he makes the swooping connection from the eyebrow leading to the nose. In many cases, the face of a Botticelli is an idealized derivative of Simonetta, his muse. Although she died at the age of 22, just a year into her marriage, Botticelli still continued to carry on her likeness as his baseline of idealized beauty. This isn't unique to Botticelli and Simonetta. Boucher had Madame de Pompadour, Manet had Victorine. Ultimately, the closing chapter on the early Renaissance and Botticelli's short-term legacy would manifest in a new project that would combine different artistic visions for a grand house of the Lord, the Sistine Chapel. Botticelli's frescoes were almost 30 years before Michelangelo would even start painting the ceiling, and the fresh style and new approach to portraying idealized anatomy by Michelangelo and Da Vinci would prove to overshadow Botticelli, and additionally, his legacy would be tarnished for the next few centuries over allegations that he kept young boys. But he would come back in favor with a movement of the pre-Raphaelites in the mid-19th century, whose view was that Raphael was the hinge point in which the trajectory of art zigged when it should have zagged. And so they assessed who became obscured and who became renowned, and Botticelli was rediscovered. The painting we're looking at today is a tempera work on circular panel known as a tondo that was popular with religious works among wealthy Florence patrons at the time. The Procession of the Magi from around 1495. The first thing we notice here is Mary. Incredibly feminine, soft features, a beautiful young angelic woman. Botticelli's ideal female template is the base here with the red blonde long hair, curtaining, pouting lips. She almost looks like she's leaning in for a kiss, really, rather than praying. It's worth noting here that you'll notice coming out of the medieval period, this is how you'll find Mary depicted previously. This transparent veil material here, totally outstanding. The execution, perfect. We can practically feel this silky sheet, so fragile and delicate it would melt in your fingers. But as the painting's concerned, it also serves a purpose. It covers her without obfuscating her femininity and sensuality of her hair and neck. He shows off the skill of translucency again with her halo above. She wears a bright red garment that demands your eye. Typically, Mary's portrayed in blue, but this is a departure. The immediate backdrop behind her, we see a clear blue sky with distant mountains, hewed off from the Raleigh scattering. In the immediate background, the landscape looks like the smoothest golf course you've ever seen. Botticelli's trees and bushes are these perfectly manufactured, molded objects, stylized to a degree that they look like they belong in a Mario game. Actually, this painting is 500 years before Mario, so I should say the Mario trees belong in a Botticelli. Then this guy. This is Joseph. Now, up until the Reformation, it was commonplace to portray Joseph as much older. This comes from an apocryphal book, the Proto-Evangelion of James. In the story, Mary's parents have dedicated her to the church, and on her 12th birthday, the priest says they have to do something with her, lest she defile the temple, like perhaps becoming a... So the priest prays on it and calls all the men in. Joseph is chosen by a sign from God to take her as his wife, but he's reluctant. He's a grown man with children, but he takes her in reluctantly, and so, much like Moses depicted with horns, this is an incorrect artistic depiction of scripture that shaped the public's perception. So in this depiction, we have our older, tired Joseph. Aside from this index finger, he's executed quite well. Okay, next we're going to make our way over to the baby. Oh boy. The first thing we notice here is the eyes looking back at us. Definitely do not scale with the rest of his physique. There's some serious Damien vibes there. And his position. There doesn't seem to be anything solid he's reclining on. It just garments. This is a little awkward because it looks like he could just roll right out of the painting. And while we're looking here, Joseph's leg isn't straight like it would probably be where he's sitting on something. Is he crouching? Looking at these two positions are actually pretty tiring. Like Joseph's sleeping in a thigh-burning crouch as the infant is in the middle of a rep of crunches. While we're down here on the floor, it looks hard and uncomfortable. Yes, there's some thin hay here, but when you look at where the floor meets the back wall, it's completely flat. There's no cushioning whatsoever. And then let's circle back to Mary. Look at that. While you're watching this, put one hand at the bottom of your knee and the other where your leg meets your pelvis. Now I want you to hold that length and move it up to your stomach so you can have a greater appreciation at how insane this is that Mary's upper leg is actually shorter than her stomach area. Here is where her ribs are, and here is where her breasts would be. All of this is stomach. Either we uncovered the secret of why Mary was chosen for the Immaculate Conception, or Botticelli's anatomy is quite whack. Then there's the titular subject, the Magi in the background. In case you don't know, the Magi are the wise men who visited Jesus and brought him gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I don't know if it's because he has this horse essentially standing on the wall immediately behind her, or if it's the proportion, but they look like these little Smurf-sized figurines coming right up to her. It's really odd. The Magi were very popular to depict in this time in Florence as some of the wealthiest, most prolific art patrons of the era. The Medicis had family in a fraternal order called the Brotherhood of the Magi. Honestly, this is fine though. This is the early Renaissance and late Middle Ages. The Middle Ages are known for their flat depictions and incongruent proportions. It's important also to understand the difference between paintings then and now. Now you might think of a painting being executed by an individual, but this wasn't the case. High-profile artists like Botticelli had workshops with dozens of apprentices who all worked on the paintings. A master like Botticelli would have set up the piece and made the final touches at the end. This particular painting was probably commissioned by a noble family to Botticelli's workshop. This was a very productive time in his career, and the possibility that he may have spent less time with some pieces than others. This particular painting, I might assess he had a very limited hand in. What leads me to this conclusion is Mary's face. Her hands look quite Botticelli, you'll notice, but the facial structure, it's surely right, but you'll notice the more defined, hard, illustration-type lines here are missing, typical in a Botticelli. There's soft transitions here, with the nose and the hair, which are done in a more painterly style than why a client might seek out a specific Botticelli style. So what do you think? Can you better identify the face of a Botticelli now? Are you going to use this pickup line, or has it been used on you? Inquiring minds want to know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video entertaining, and if so, zap those like and subscribe buttons, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Until then, get some sun, touch some grass, and find the art in everything.